You're not wife material, dear. Maybe it's best if you leave now. Those words hit me like a slap across the face. I was 24 years old, sitting at a mahogany dining table that probably cost more than my car, wearing the nicest dress I owned. My boyfriend's mother, Margaret, had just said this to me. Out loud, in front of everyone. It was supposed to be a celebration dinner. Jake had told me his family wanted to finally get to know me better after 2 years of dating. I'd been nervous for weeks, practicing conversations in my head, choosing the perfect outfit. I wanted them to see what Jake saw in me. But from the moment I walked through those massive double doors, Margaret's eyes had been ice, cold, calculating, judging every move I made. Mom, what are you? Jake started, but she raised one perfectly manicured hand. I'm simply being honest, Jacob. This girl comes from nothing. No family connections, no proper education, working as a waitress at 24? She turned those sharp eyes back to me. What could you possibly offer my son? The dining room went silent. Jake's father cleared his throat uncomfortably. His sister Emma stared down at her plate. Even the staff standing by the walls seemed to freeze. My hands trembled in my lap. I wanted to defend myself, to tell her that I was putting myself through nursing school, that I worked 2 jobs to pay for it, that Jake loved me for who I was. But my voice had disappeared. She's ambitious, she's kind, Jake tried again. She's inadequate, Margaret interrupted, her voice sharp as glass. And frankly, Jacob, I'm disappointed you'd bring someone so beneath our standards into this home. I felt tears burning behind my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. Not here, not in front of her. That's when Margaret stood up, her chair scraping against the marble floor. I think we're done here. I should have left right then. I should have walked out with whatever dignity I had left. But I was frozen, humiliation washing over me in waves. Jake grabbed my hand under the table. We're leaving, he said, his voice shaking with anger. Sit down, Jacob. Margaret's tone was absolute. She wasn't asking. She was commanding. And God help me, he hesitated. Just for a second, but I saw it. That moment where he had to choose between defending me and obeying his mother. That hesitation told me everything I needed to know. Listen to your mother, Jake, his father finally spoke, swirling his wine. She's only thinking of your future. Margaret smiled, victorious. She sat back down gracefully, as if she hadn't just destroyed me. Now, as I was saying before this interruption, we need to discuss the merger with the Patterson firm. They just moved on. Like I wasn't even there. Like I was a minor inconvenience that had been handled. Emma finally looked up at me, and for a split second I thought I saw sympathy in her eyes. But she said nothing. Nobody said anything. I stood up slowly, my legs barely supporting me. Excuse me, I whispered. Yes, that's best, Margaret said without even looking at me. Jacob will see you out. But Jake didn't move. He sat there, torn between 2 worlds, and I realized he was never going to choose mine. So I walked out alone. Through that obscenely expensive house, past the crystal chandeliers and the oil paintings of ancestors who'd probably turn in their graves knowing someone like me had entered their home. The click of my heels on marble echoed in the silence. I made it to my car before the tears came. Huge, gasping sobs that shook my entire body. I sat there in that parking lot for 20 minutes, crying so hard I couldn't breathe. My phone buzzed. Jake, I'm sorry. Give me time to talk to her. Time. He wanted time. I drove home that night, knowing something had broken that couldn't be fixed. The next few weeks were torture. Jake called constantly, texting, showing up at my apartment. She'll come around, he kept saying. She just needs to get to know you. But I knew better. Margaret didn't want to know me. She'd already decided who I was the moment she saw my second-hand dress and my nervous smile. Maybe we should take a break, I told Jake one night, my heart breaking even as I said it. No way. I love you. We'll figure this out. He pulled me close, and I wanted so badly to believe him. But then came the final dinner. 2 months after the first one. Margaret had insisted, and Jake begged me to come. Please, one more chance. I'll stand up for her this time, I promise. I should have known promises mean nothing to people like them. This time Margaret had invited more people. Family friends, business associates, all dressed in designer clothes, drinking expensive wine, discussing investments and vacation homes. And then she introduced me. Everyone, this is Jake's friend. She's been quite persistent. Margaret's smile was poison. Tell us, dear, what is it your father does again? My throat tightened. He passed away when I was 16. Oh, she paused for effect. And your mother? She works at a grocery store. I heard someone snicker. Actually snicker. An older woman in pearls whispered something to the man next to her. Margaret's smile widened. How quaint. And you're studying to be a nurse? How much debt are you accumulating for that? Mom, that's enough, Jake said, but his voice was weak, defeated. I'm simply making conversation, Jacob. She turned back to me. I just think it's important everyone understands the reality of this relationship. You're a sweet girl, truly, but you must understand that our family has certain expectations, standards. A man across the table nodded. Margaret's right. Bloodlines matter. Always have. I felt sick. Actually physically sick. That's when Emma stood up abruptly, her chair scraping loud enough to make everyone turn. This is disgusting, Emma said, her voice cutting through the murmurs. All of you should be ashamed. Margaret's face went rigid. Emma, sit down. No. Emma looked at me, and this time the sympathy in her eyes was real, raw. I'm sorry. I should have said something the first time. I was a coward. Emma Louise, you will sit down right now, Margaret hissed. But Emma ignored her. She walked around the table and stood next to me. She's a good person, Mom. Better than most people in this room. Better than us. For a moment, hope flickered in my chest. Maybe this was it. Maybe someone would finally stand up to Margaret. Your opinion is noted, Margaret said coldly. Now sit down before you embarrass yourself further. And just like that, Emma deflated. She looked at me one more time, whispered, I'm sorry, and sat back down. The dinner continued. They actually continued eating, discussing business deals and golf tournaments, while I sat there feeling like an exhibit in a zoo. The poor girl. The waitress. The one who didn't belong. Jake reached for my hand, but I pulled away. I couldn't look at him. Couldn't look at any of them. I need some air, I mumbled, standing up. Nobody tried to stop me this time. I walked out onto their massive terrace overlooking perfectly manicured gardens. The night air was cold, but I welcomed it. Anything to get away from that room? They're never going to accept you, you know. I spun around. Margaret had followed me outside, wineglass in hand, looking completely composed. Why? I asked, my voice breaking. What did I ever do to you? You exist, she said simply. You're a distraction. Jake has a brilliant future ahead of him and you're in the way. He loves me. He thinks he does. But love fades. Legacy doesn't. She took a sip of wine. I'm offering you money. $50,000 to walk away tonight and never contact my son again. I stared at her, unable to process what I'd just heard. You're trying to pay me to leave? I'm offering you an opportunity, Margaret corrected, as if we were discussing a business transaction. $50,000. Enough to pay off your nursing school debt. Enough to start fresh somewhere else. All you have to do is end things with Jacob tonight and sign a non-disclosure agreement. My hands clenched into fists. I'm not some problem you can throw money at. Everyone has a price, dear. Her smile was cruel. Yours is probably much lower than $50,000, but I'm feeling generous. The sliding door opened behind us. Jake stepped out. What's going on? Your mother just offered me money to leave you, I said, my voice hollow. He looked between us, confused. Mom, tell me that's not true. Margaret didn't even flinch. I'm protecting you, Jacob. She's clearly after your money. Why else would a waitress be with someone like you? Because I love him. The words exploded out of me. I love him, and I have never asked him for anything. Not once. Not ever. Love? Margaret laughed, actually laughed. How adorably naive. Tell me, when the money runs out, when the passion fades, what will you have in common? You can't even hold a proper conversation at dinner. Jake stepped forward. Mom, you need to apologize. Right now. I will do no such thing. I'm stating facts. Then we're done here. Jake grabbed my hand. We're leaving. And I don't want to see you until you can treat the woman I love with respect. For the first time, Margaret's composure cracked slightly. Jacob, if you walk out that door with her, there will be consequences. I don't care. Your trust fund. Your position at the company. Your future. Her voice was ice. Choose carefully. The silence that followed felt like an eternity. I could hear my own heartbeat, feel the tension radiating off Jake's body. I choose her, he finally said. We left that night with nothing but each other. Jake moved into my tiny apartment. He got a job at a regular firm, making a fraction of what he would have in his family's company. And for a while it was enough. But resentment is a quiet poison. It doesn't kill you all at once. It seeps in slowly, day by day, until you don't recognize what you've become. 6 months after we left his family, Jake started changing. Little things at first. He'd come home from his new job and complain about his boss, his coworkers, the cramped office. I used to have a corner office with a view, he'd mutter. I know, babe, but we're building something real. Just us. I'd try to comfort him, but my words felt hollow even to me. Then came the bigger things. He stopped coming to my nursing school graduation ceremony planning meetings. I'm tired, he'd say, or I have work. But I knew the truth. He was tired of pretending this life was enough. 1 year after that dinner, almost to the day, everything fell apart. I came home early from my shift at the hospital where I'd just started as a registered nurse. I'd passed my boards. I was so excited to tell Jake, to celebrate this huge milestone, but his car wasn't in our parking spot. Strange. He should have been home. I called him. No answer. I tried again. Nothing. Then I saw it. His location on the Find My Friends app we'd set up months ago. He was at his parents' house. My stomach dropped. He'd been going back, without telling me. I don't know what possessed me, but I drove there. 45 minutes to that massive estate I'd sworn I'd never see again. My hands shook the entire drive. When I arrived, I parked across the street, hidden behind a row of hedges. I watched their house, lit up like a palace, and wondered what I was even doing there. Then the front door opened. Jake walked out, and right behind him, laughing and touching his arm, was a woman. Blonde, beautiful, wearing the kind of dress that cost more than my monthly rent. Margaret appeared in the doorway, beaming. Actually beaming at this woman. She hugged her, kissed her cheek. I sat there in my car, watching my boyfriend with his mother and some other woman, and felt my entire world collapse. I should have driven away. Instead, I got out of the car and walked straight up to that front door. My nursing scrubs were wrinkled, my hair was a mess, and I didn't care. I rang the doorbell. The butler who answered looked shocked to see me. Miss, I'm here to see Jake. My voice was steady, eerily calm. Margaret appeared behind him, and her face went from surprise to disgust in seconds. You're not welcome here. Where's Jake? He's busy, with appropriate company. She started to close the door, but I pushed forward. Jake! I shouted into that massive foyer. Get out here! He appeared at the top of the staircase, the blonde woman still beside him. His face went pale when he saw me. What are you doing here? He asked, coming down the stairs. What am I doing here? What are you doing here? You told me you were working late. The blonde woman looked confused. Jake, who is this? Nobody, Margaret answered for him. She's leaving. Nobody? I laughed, but it came out broken. I'm the woman he's been living with for a year, the woman he supposedly chose over all of this. Jake reached the bottom of the stairs. It's not what you think. Then what is it? Explain to me what I'm looking at right now. He couldn't. He just stood there, trapped between his two worlds again. The blonde woman's eyes widened. Wait, you're living with someone? Jake, you told me you were single. You said, Clarissa, please, just give me a moment. Jake said. Clarissa. Of course her name was Clarissa. Margaret stepped forward, her smile victorious. I told you love fades, dear. My son has finally come to his senses. He's been seeing Clarissa for 3 months. Her father owns the Patterson firm. It's an excellent match. 3 months. He'd been cheating on me for 3 months. Tell me it's not true, I whispered, looking at Jake. Tell me she's lying. He opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. I was going to tell you. I didn't know how. My legs almost gave out. You were going to tell me? When? After you married her? Don't be dramatic, Margaret said. Dramatic? I turned to Margaret, and something inside me snapped. All the humiliation, all the pain, all the nights I'd believed in us. You did this. You poisoned him against me. You never gave us a chance. I simply showed him reality, Margaret said smoothly. You were a phase, a rebellion, and now it's over. Jake flinched but said nothing. Nothing. He just stood there like a coward while his mother destroyed me again. Clarissa looked uncomfortable. Maybe I should go. No, stay, Margaret said, putting an arm around her. You're family now. That's when I heard footsteps behind me. A man's voice, deep and authoritative. What's all this commotion? I turned to see an older man in an expensive suit walking through the front door. He had sharp eyes and an air of command that even made Margaret straighten up. Mr. Patterson, Margaret said quickly, her tone suddenly deferential. This is just a misunderstanding, an ex-girlfriend causing a scene. Ex-girlfriend? I said incredulously. We live together. Our lease isn't up for 3 more months. Mr. Patterson looked at Jake with obvious disapproval. Is this true, Jacob? Jake's face went red. Sir, I can explain. My daughter told me you were single, Mr. Patterson said coldly. Was she misinformed? I was going to end things, Jake stammered. I just needed time to keep lying to everyone involved? Mr. Patterson turned to Clarissa. Get your things. We're leaving. Daddy, wait. Now, Clarissa. Margaret looked panicked for the first time. Mr. Patterson, please, let's discuss this rationally. The merger between our families. There is no merger. Not with a family that raises liars. He looked at me, and his expression softened slightly. Miss, I apologize that you were caught up in this. You deserve better. Then he and Clarissa left, and the massive front door slammed behind them. The silence was deafening. Margaret turned on Jake, her face contorted with rage. Do you have any idea what you've just cost us? But before anyone could respond, another voice came from the doorway. A woman's voice, older and refined. I think I can answer that. A woman in her 60s stepped into the foyer, elegant and poised. She had kind eyes and silver hair pulled back in a neat bun. Behind her was a man in a suit carrying a briefcase. Margaret's face went white. Mother, what are you doing here? Mother? This was Jake's grandmother? I came because Emma called me. She told me what's been happening. The woman walked toward me, studying my face. You must be the young woman my daughter-in-law has been tormenting. Mrs. Monroe, Margaret said, her voice tight. This doesn't concern you. You haven't been involved in family matters for years. Because I was disgusted by what this family had become under your influence, Mrs. Monroe said sharply. But I'm still the majority shareholder of Monroe Industries, and I'm still the matriarch of this family, whether you like it or not. She turned to me. What's your name, dear? Sarah, I managed to say. Sarah Chen. Sarah Chen, she repeated, as if testing the name. Emma tells me you're a registered nurse now, that you worked 2 jobs to put yourself through school, that you're kind, hardworking, and that my grandson claimed to love you before he became a coward. Jake looked like he wanted to disappear. She's a nobody from nowhere. Margaret tried. She has nothing to offer. Nothing to offer? Mrs. Monroe's voice cracked like a whip. She has integrity, character, a work ethic. Things this family used to value before you married into it, Margaret. The man with the briefcase stepped forward. Mrs. Monroe, should I proceed? Yes, Charles. Please. Charles opened his briefcase and pulled out documents. Margaret Monroe, as of today, your position on the board of Monroe Industries is terminated. Your access to family accounts is revoked, and your residence in the family estate is being reconsidered. Margaret's face went from white to red. You can't do this. I've run this company for 15 years. You've run it into the ground morally, Mrs. Monroe said. Our reputation is more important than our profit margin, something you never understood. She turned to Jake. And you, my grandson. I'm ashamed of you. Jake's eyes filled with tears. Grandma, please. You had a woman who loved you for who you were, not what you had. And you threw her away like garbage because it was easier than standing up to your mother. Mrs. Monroe turned back to me, her expression softening. Sarah, I want to apologize on behalf of this family. You were treated abhorrently, and you deserved none of it. I stood there, still processing everything that had just happened. Margaret looked like she'd been slapped. Jake was crying. Emma had appeared from somewhere and was watching with tears streaming down her face. I don't understand, I said quietly. Why are you doing this? Because I was you once, Mrs. Monroe said. 60 years ago, I was a secretary who fell in love with the boss's son. His mother tried everything to break us apart, but his father, bless him, stood up for me, for us. And we built something real. She glanced at Margaret with disgust. I watched my daughter-in-law turn this family into everything I fought against. I watched from a distance, hoping someone would have the courage to stop her. And when Emma called me tonight, crying about what happened to you, I knew I had to act. Charles handed me an envelope. This is for you, Miss Chen. I opened it with shaking hands. Inside was a check for $100,000. I can't accept this, I said immediately. It's not charity, Mrs. Monroe said firmly. It's an investment. Emma tells me you want to specialize in pediatric nursing. That money will cover your advanced certification, your loans, and give you a fresh start, away from all of this. I looked at Jake one last time. He was still crying, reaching for me. Sarah, please, I'm so sorry. I love you. I made a mistake. Please, you don't get to love me anymore, I said, and my voice didn't shake. Not even a little. You don't get to break me and then ask me to stay broken. I turned to Mrs. Monroe. Thank you for seeing me when no one else would. She squeezed my hand. Go build the life you deserve, Sarah, without people who make you feel small. I walked out of that house for the last time, past the chandeliers, past the oil paintings, past the marble floors. But this time I wasn't running. I was walking away with my head held high. A year later, I'm a pediatric nurse at Children's Hospital. I have my own apartment. I'm dating someone who introduces me to his family with pride. And sometimes, late at night, I think about Margaret's face when her whole world came crashing down. Karma doesn't always come when you want it, but when it does, it's beautiful.